Hello, beautiful viewers all around the world. Good morning and welcome to another edition of Daybreak Live on Dominion Television. Today, the 22nd of April, 2025. I am Samson Balogun.
And I am Abby Dickinson. It's always joy to connect with you each morning. But today, our hearts are heavy as we bring you a critical conversation that affects or touches the soul of the nation. Samson.
Well, it's no longer news. Security has been a very big issue.
Is your heart as heavy as mine, first of all?
Honestly, I'm beginning to feel somehow about the headlines we see on a daily basis
really,
in Nigeria.
Really
and to think that it's not just an headline. In some parts of the country, it is part of their daily activities, what they live to see every morning. That's really sad to talk about that.
You know, just over the weekend, we had this news, reports of communities being attacked. You know, lives, properties, bonds, families are shattered. It's really terrible. I don't even understand what is going on.
You know, the incessant killings and attacks on communities, banditry, talking about insurgencies, talking about kidnaps and ransom in some parts of the country, and the recent spree of killings in Plateau State and, of course, Benue State has been, you know, something that brings, you know, a heavy heart to everyone. It's really saddening to read that every morning. It's one thing we really need to discuss and bring the attention of the government to it. They really have to do something about that.
But I thought they said they are winning the fight against terrorism.
Now, the question is, if we are winning the fight against terrorism, we still get to see this every morning. Yesterday, we read a headline about a total of 284 people, you know, who have lost their lives
within
in the last
3 months
in a particular part of the country. It means that if 284, even a life should be enough for the country to deploy its arsenal to that part of the country, because every life has to be important.
Every life matters. And I'm wondering why we still cannot get it right. So I actually saw an interview and, you know, the man was talking about these killings in Plateau State, you know, have been on for years now, you know, talk about 20 years thereabout. And I'm like, okay, if it's that long, so nothing can be done, is it that the government cannot, you know, nip this issue in the bud? Because if you want to actually work on anything, you have to get to the root of it. What is causing these communal clashes, attacks here and there, banditry, you know, what exactly is the problem? Because if we look at it, Samson, you know, some people might say, oh, I'm not in the north, it's not affecting me, but you do not even know. You might have a relation there. Imagine sometime now, maybe in another couple of weeks or years, you sit down and you're talking to somebody and you know of a relation. Oh, that person was in Plateau State, you know, in Benue State. Oh, the attack killed. How would you feel?
You know,
feel really bad.
Every family has a family member somewhere you are not even thinking about at the time. So it means that, you know, we are all spread across the country. And we can't oversize the fact that insecurity has been the order of the day in the country. That's exactly why we have to talk about the origin, how it started, what exactly caused it, and why are we here at the time. So in Nigeria, it's a complex and rooted in a combination of historical, political, economic, and religious factors. And then you cannot not talk about the historical background, and that has a lot to do about boundaries in Nigeria, which is the colonial legacy, or when the British colonial rule in Nigeria created artificial boundaries just to separate one part of the country from the other. That has not really settled and did not sit down well with some part of the country at the time. That's why we still have boundary clashes in Nigeria. And then post-independence tensions are still not ended. You will forget that this actually led to civil war at the point. After Nigeria gained independence in the year 1960, regional rivalries and struggles for power became more pronounced in the country. So it means that from one angle to the other, there is the struggle for power, which means that tensions remained there. Away from there, you talk about the religious and ideological beliefs of some people. we have had, in recent times, we have had, you know, religious crisis in the country. We have had clashes that has a lot to do with, you know, religion, which means that regardless of what we want to think about, Nigeria is a complex country with so many religions. We talk about Christianity, talk about Islam, talk about the traditional worshippers, and we still have some other people like that who will say they do not belong in any of these three. So meaning that we don't practice just three religions, we practice several religions.
So we're looking at this now. Would you say this is as a result of violence, or is it ethnic issues, religious, political is there? Or would you say it's a mix?
Well,
a deadly mix of
I'll go
all
for
of this.
A blend of all of that, because in one particular place at a time, you have something different causing, you know, unrest in those areas, and that means that for a long time now, I think for a few years, we have not really had anything that has to do with religion like that, except for the clashes on the Shiites in Abuja and a whole lot of that. But then, still talking around what caused insecurity, economic inequality is another thing we should look about. Okay. Take, for example, in the south at the point we had the Niger Delta, the MEND, they erupted in that part of the country, and then they caused a lot of trouble. Now, the inequality I want to talk about is the fact that at a point, I think it was during the administration of former President Umar Musa Yar'Adua, he was able to take them off the creeks, and then some of them were sponsored abroad, some to Russia, they studied, some to South Africa at the time, and then during President Goodluck Bello Jonathan, I think that same process was followed. But you want to consider the fact that the Boko Haram, the bandits, don't you think they would also want that kind of, you know, leniency from the government? But then we have seen that under President Muhammadu Buhari,
I mean, they have been lenient with them.
They actually took amnesty. They actually took some of them in. They went through this process of you know, making them understand the fact that, look, this is not the best way to live your life, and then some of them were released at a point. So it means that there has been a little bit of equality when we talk about you know, the suspected bandits, and of course insurgents, and then the members of MEND at the time. So it means that right now there's something close to a level playing field, which I think should really bring down the kind of unrest we are currently having in the country. But then, which is the way to go when we talk about insecurity?
But I feel that the government still know what they are supposed to do. You can't tell me they don't know what's wrong somewhere. Is it that they're just waiting? Well, they can't really say.
There is a usual saying that if insecurity lasts more than a day in a particular country or state, means that the government is complicit. Now, we have had situations where unrest was about to happen in a particular place, and then the government cracks down on whoever is, you know, involved in one way or the other. They all get arrested, and then it's nipped in the bud. Then we'll talk about areas like Baga in Maiduguri, in Borno State. We talk about some places in Niger State, in Zamfara, Yobe State, which at a point were not under the command of the Nigerian government. They were said to have been seized by insurgents, bandits, Boko Haram, whatever name you want to call them in that area. But then, this should not be a thing that should be happening in Nigeria. Sometimes you watch how people see Nigeria outside the country, and you begin to wonder what exactly is going on. It means that they have a different perspective to what we are seeing, or maybe a worse perspective to what we are seeing. Some people will say, I've read on the pages of the newspaper sometimes when, you know, foreign countries will tell their citizens, their nationals who are heading to Nigeria, look, there are so parts of the country you should not go to due to security challenges. In fact, even the you know, the FCT was once part of that. You know, we had the bombings on the UN building and the likes. But then, away from there, insecurity in the country will be addressed.
You know, recently General Danjuma actually talked about self-defense, and there's been this uproar everywhere. Some people are against it, some are for it. I don't know whether that will help, because I mean, if you're attacking me and I don't even have any means or weapon to attack back, then you win. But some people are of the opinion that if it gets to self-defense, everybody, you know, having weapons,
that might be a turn to Banana Republic. And that takes us away from that this morning. We're straight to our news desk as Uzoms Okechukwu is waiting for Daybreak News.
Good morning. This is Daybreak News on Dominion Television. My name is Uzoms Okechukwu. The Minister for Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, has denied a media report claiming that a lengthy concession period had been agreed upon for Enugu International Airport. In a statement signed by the Special Advisor on Media and Communications to the Minister, Tunde Moshood, today, Keyamo described the media report as untrue. While the minister acknowledged that the government was considering concessions and had received proposals from various interested companies, he stated that no conclusion had been reached. It will be recalled that Enugu Airport came under media scrutiny after Air Peace Airlines suspended its flight operations to the airport due to infrastructural defects. The Alaafin of Oyo, Oba Abimbola Owode, has praised the governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, describing him as a man driven by objectivity, curiosity, and a relentless pursuit of truth. In a statement issued by the monarch's Director of Media and Publicity, Bode Durojaye, the Alaafin made the remarks during a courtesy visit to the governor at his Ikolaba residence in Ibadan over the weekend. Oba Owode, who was accompanied by his wife, Ayaba Abiwumi, commended Governor Makinde for his openness to dialogue and willingness to embrace superior arguments backed by logic and evidence, even while staying true to his core principles. Meanwhile, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has dismissed the claims that the defunct digital asset trading platform, CBEX, was registered under its Special Control Unit against money laundering. However, EFCC stated that ST Technologies and not CBEX registered with SCUML, saying that the certificate didn't imply clearance by the Commission. The clarification comes after Leslie Kessi Oviritsa, one of the victims of the CBEX Ponzi scheme, said that she fell prey to CBEX after seeing and verifying its CAC and SCUML certificates. Overeaters claimed that they had no reason to suspect foul play, especially since they claimed their certificate would be ready by May 2025. The Christian Association of Nigeria, comprising of 19 northern states and Abuja, have joined the global Christian community in mourning the passing of His Holiness Pope Francis. A statement issued by its chairman, Reverend John Hayab, said that the news of the Pope's death is a moment of profound grief for Catholics and Christians around the world, especially the Roman Catholic community in northern Nigeria and Nigeria as a whole. Hayab said that the Pope brought a unique depth of humility, intellect, and pastoral concern to his leadership, saying that he advocated for the poor, defended the environment, and spoke out for justice in the face of global inequalities. Residents of Bariton local government area of Kwara State have confirmed the presence of armed bandits in the northern part of the local government. They said that they were attacked last weekend by bandits chased from the northeast and northwest. Some residents were reportedly killed, while the community vigilante vehicle and motorcycles were also burned. Although the Kwara State Police Command has consistently denied that there is no presence of bandits in the states, residents of Bariton are backing up their claims with video and photo evidence. In business, the National Identity Management Commission has said that the number of Nigerians who have registered in the National Identification Number database rose to 118.4 million in March 2025. This marks an increase of about 1 million from February's figure of 117.3 million, indicating sustained momentum in the country's digital identity drive. Lagos remains the state with the highest number of enrollees at 12.7 million, followed by Kano with 10.4 million and Kaduna with 6.9 million. Other top-performing states include Ogun with 4.9, Oyo with 4.5, Katsina with 4 million, among others. Talking sports, Team Nigeria departed for Mauritius yesterday to compete at the 2025 African Weightlifting Championship, scheduled from 20th April to 28th April as they continue their quest for medals in continental dominance. The traveling delegation comprises 6 elite athletes and 2 coaches, entering the 35th edition with momentum, having performed well at the last championship in Egypt, finishing with 6 gold and 5 silver medals. Rafiatu Folashade Lawal won 3 gold medals in the women's 59 kg category, dominating the snatch, clean and jerk and total lifts. In the same weight class, Adijat Adenike Olanoye followed her closely as runners-up, winning 3 silver medals. You can visit our website on www.dominion.org.ng to listen to us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast and X at Dominioncast. That ends Daybreak News. I am Uzoms Okechukwu. Back to Samson and Abby.
that short break, we now head straight to newspaper review segment this morning, where we bring you major stories on the pages of the newspaper. We'll start this with the Leadership newspaper this morning. At the first headline, 138 cardinals to elect new pope as Francis dies at 88. And the riders we have here, 18 Africans to participate in selection process. Ghanaian toxin, 9 others among contenders. Tinubu, Trump, others more. That story is on Leadership newspaper this morning.
Yes, we say rest in peace to the Pope.
To the Pope.
You know, Samson, if you look at this story from the Leadership about the Pope, now look at the left corner there. You see those riders?
Yeah.
It's interesting, telling us every detail, you know,
of how it panned
out
over the
issues from 2023,
March 2023
24. Wow, I'm like, really, these people keep records like this?
Yeah, they do.
And it's really good.
June 7, 2023, he underwent internal brain surgery. And November 2023, suffered a lung inflammation. In December 2024, suffered a fall at his residence. In January 2025, fell at his residence. In February 14, 2025, suffered severe respiratory infection, and so on and so forth. So there are records of
keeping records of you know how this has panned out. Okay. Also from the Leadership newspaper, NAS extends holiday amid security concerns. Just security. We just spoke about security. We'll be talking about security and National Assembly leaders
extending the holidays. Just amid,
because of security.
Well, we'll get there in Nigeria. Okay. All right, after 40 years, Minna Airport commences commercial flight. That story is on page 7 of Leadership newspaper this morning.
Okay, also from Leadership newspaper on page 6, Plateau killings, church leaders demand justice.
Taking another story, this morning we head straight to Leadership newspaper. Benue is under siege. Alia cries out. That's the governor of Benue State this morning, and you find that story on page 23 of Leadership newspaper. I think the issue of insecurity has hit some states more than others, and most especially Benue State, Plateau State, and of course when we talk about Borno State, also Yobe State, they have all had their fair share of insecurity issues. Security issues in the past few years. And that for me, at the point I think you will feel that state of emergency on security should be declared in some parts of the country. Not necessarily telling the governors to step aside, but the government should take decisive actions to see that lives and properties are being secured. On a daily basis, you get to read about this. And then it is sometimes tiring to know that people are dying on a daily basis and properties worth billions of naira are being destroyed. Now, it costs relatively less to build these properties, to put them in shape. It costs a lot. It costs relatively less to destroy them, but then to rebuild, it's a lot.
It's a lot. They really need to look into it. I mean, people don't even sleep anymore. Before you say you sleep with your 2 eyes closed or sleep with 1 eye, I don't even think you can sleep with any eyes closed these days. All right. Also from the Leadership newspaper, Dangote spends 31 billion on food programs. You can find that on page 24 of the Leadership newspaper, just as Ohaneze insists on restructuring, also on page 27 of the Leadership newspaper.
All right, the Defense Minister visits Plateau communities over killings. All right, talking about numbers, $5 billion invested in gas sector. You'll find that story on page 2 of the Leadership newspaper this morning, and that takes us to the New Telegraph.
Yes.
All right, talking about New Telegraph, Ebi. Let's take stories from there.
Okay, this one says, looking at me straight, it says, why I was reluctant to become Yar'Adua's running mate. This is Goodluck Jonathan.
The riders there says, winning 2025 Sunak Peace Prize, a humbling surprise, as Mako, Zibola, others honor ex-president. That story is on page 2 of the New Telegraph. And of course, we'll take another story, and that's on the upper third of the New Telegraph. China floors Nigeria with 4.7 trillion naira worth of goods in 2 months, as value of nation's exports hits 2.99 trillion naira year on year. You'll find that story on the New Telegraph this morning.
Okay, also on the New Telegraph on the left corner, Tinubu extols Kalu's unwavering patriotism and entrepreneurial spirit at 65. You can find the story on page 4 and page 27.
And of course, the rider there says, arrives Abuja after 2 weeks Europe working visits. That story is on page 4 and page 27
so I guess
of the New Telegraph.
Welcome to the president.
Welcome back to Nigeria. I hope now that he's back, a lot of things will be put in shape. And then we take this story. Nigerian airports is running at a loss. Report on the Enugu Airport concessionaire duration falls. That story is on page 3. And of course, credited to Festus Keyamo there.
Okay, on page 5, we have this story that says NNPC Limited reduces fuel price to 880 naira per litre in Lagos and 935 naira, yes, and liters in Abuja.
All right, we'll take this. A Christian stage holy protest over Benue Plateau killings. That story is on page 2 of the New Telegraph this morning.
Okay, the world mourns as Pope Francis, first Latin American pontiff, dies at 88.
All right, we take another story. Why many Christian politicians engage in unrighteous acts. That's coming from a cleric, says he's never seen governor that pays tithe. That story is on page 30. For everything that happens in a country like Nigeria, I think everyone talks about things that really concerns them. Everyone has peculiar things that
tithe paying.
That's peculiar to churches and pastors.
How do you even know that no governor
pays tithe? Probably a governor worships in his church and he feels like, well, I don't think I have seen one.
Is a governor enough to say, oh, you have never seen any governor paying tithe?
Well, when it comes to religion, one has to tread carefully about, these things. This might not be,
what
interpreted
exactly
the way he means it.
Maybe just the headline until you get into the
story, you realize he has an explanation for, just like we were talking yesterday after when a pastor said, God does not relate with, with the poor. And then you get to realize that if you actually listen to the message from A to Z, you will understand the fact that, there were explanations embedded in between, which means that you really will not get the main message until you listen carefully. And then some people will just cut a certain part which they feel is interesting for the blog, and then they put it out there.
Okay, so until we get into the nitty-gritty of that story,
you might not know.
Okay.
All right, FG to close Lagos Ijora Bridge for repairs. That story is on page 27. On April 27. That story is on page 5 of the New Telegraph this morning.
Okay, value of unsold goods up 87.5% to 2.14 trillion in 2024. This is coming from the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. And it's on page 4 of the New Telegraph.
All right, away from there this morning, we move straight to the Guardian newspaper. And the headline here is manufacturers grown as alternative energy gulps 1.1 trillion naira in 1 year. That's on page 6. I think these are the people that really need government intervention a lot. Because if we do not manufacture enough in Nigeria, meaning we are going to rely so much on importation. And naira suffers. If we continue to import, it means that we are going to sell naira to get a foreign currency so we can actually, import goods. And then that in turn will wreck, the manufacturing structure we have in Nigeria, meaning that, Nigeria will totally become an importing economy, and then the country begins to suffer, meaning so many people will be out of jobs, so many companies will be closed down, and that says a lot about how the country is going to suffer if manufacturing industry is not critically looked into.
When you say critically looked into, what about quality? Because these days I see a lot of quality has dropped in manufacturing,
especially in the country. I think the idea is that as much as the government puts an intervention package in place for manufacturers, they really need to look into regulation. And that is where the Standard Organization of Nigeria, SON, and other bodies who actually looks into how good a product is or that. And then NAFDAC also has to take a critical look into this. Because sometimes you realize the fact that, there has been complaints on some products and then who actually takes this into account? Are we really doing the kind of quality control that we think goods in Nigeria? You get to see some countries, they will tell you, if your product is not meeting so standard, you don't bring them in. Yeah, and if you bring them in, they're going to seize those products and destroy them. But I've seen that probably because our borders are porous, there are so many products that get into the country, and you will realize the fact that these are things, you know, that can even be made in a corner shop. Should not really make its way into the country. It should be a product that we actually make in Nigeria by ourselves. That empowers some people, empowers a block of manufacturers, and then strengthens the Naira in one way or the other.
Okay, away from that, 2027, Obi could be president under PDP. This news is actually coming from Show Me, and you can find these on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper.
Okay, I will take this one. Moro accuses Tinubu of ignoring Senate's insecurity resolutions. That story is on page 5 of the New Telegraph. Well, if Abamoro is coming out to say this, he was at a point a minister, you know, in Nigeria, which means that he knows the government, and of course he understands. He has actually sat at, you know, FEC meetings. He knows what is being discussed there. Probably he knows something that the president does not know. And that's why I sometimes say that the administration should look into how they can actually take criticisms without thinking it is more of ones that is not constructive. You can always draw positives out of criticism. And of course, people who are criticizing the government should always be constructive about it. Don't just see the problem, see the solution.
Exactly.
And when you see the solution, I think anyone that is in the corridor of power, at the position of power, will understand the fact that you are not, if you are providing a solution, they will know that it's not just about politics.
Exactly.
It's about you having passion to see your country be at a place which is meant to be, that height the country is meant to be.
Absolutely.
But if you only talk about the problems and there's no solution, I think it is not a constructive
because once you talk and say, okay, this is wrong, you know, a lot of people, we just complain.
Yeah, it's easy to
now,
spot
when
errors.
you ask,
it's easy to spot
what do you
errors.
think is the best way to deal
Then
with
it
it?
becomes a
I mean,
problem.
your way might not actually be the best way, but at least you have.
Find a way to, you know, sometimes we develop on solutions that we get. Let's say you provide a solution for a particular thing, and we realize the fact that no, if you go about this way, it might cause so. I think implementing solutions also has to do with what works for one country or the other per time. So that's why you see some people saying you can't copy a model from a country and say it will work in a country like Nigeria.
Exactly.
So if you are copying a model somewhere and you are bringing it into a country like Nigeria, you have to make it work for Nigerians.
I mean, it's not based on default settings.
It's not based on default settings. And then the people also have to know that when a policy is being brought on board, you have to understand the fact that there is an incubation period, a time where everything goes silent and the underground work is being done to make sure that when the policy is actually implemented fully, you will see exactly why it is done. You know, you will see the results. It will be conspicuous enough for everyone to see. But then people want, I think Nigerians want quick fix. And that will kill a country like Nigeria if we continue to do it, because it's been a long time coming. And we realize the fact that every measure that has been put in place in the past hasn't really worked. Then we need to do it differently.
Quick fix and fire brigade approach.
Fire brigade approach, yeah. Away from there, we take another story this morning. Adeleke decries arson of Elisha High Court. Others probe. That's on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. Okay,
also from the Guardian newspaper, Fubara supporters await recall, say Tinubu acted in Rivers' interest. This is coming from, this is on page 29 of the Guardian newspaper.
Okay, I take this story on the lower third of the Guardian newspaper this morning. Group alleges killing of 20,300 persons, 19,000 churches and schools destroyed in the southeast. That story is on page 29. I think when I see figures like this, it scares me a lot, because we know that insecurity has been the order of the day. But then, when is it going to stop? If we are seeing figures like this, it means if nothing is done, it's going to keep increasing.
Yes, it will keep going higher.
And then you get agencies like Amnesty International saying a whole lot of things about, you know, they even have figures that some people do not have. How do they get those figures? And then how does the government intend to put an end to this?
Big question.
All right, away from there.
Okay, CISLAC hinges insecurity, economic woes on lack of empathy. Empathy there, and you can find the story on page 30 of the Guardian newspaper.
All right, top 5 Nigerian banks gross 17.3 trillion naira, grow profit by 60%. That story is on page 15 of the Guardian newspaper this morning.
Okay, I think from the Guardian newspaper we should move on.
We'll go to Blueprint this morning. Al-Qaeda-linked jihadists attack military post in Benin Republic, kill 70 soldiers.
Oh my goodness, we keep talking about
Is it an African thing these days?
The numbers are...
They are on the rise.
I'm tired of this.
And even the neighboring country, Benin Republic, that has over the time seemed relatively peaceful. They are getting this kind of news at this time. And then we are sharing borders. Don't you think that's another problem for Nigeria?
Another cause for worry and concern.
Of the country, a worrying concern. All right, away from there.
Okay, this one says Ganduje rallies diaspora support for Tinubu, inaugurates ESCO in France. Interesting.
Plateau under siege, 3,000 lost to attacks since 2015. That's coming from Mufwang. Protest rock jaws over killings. That story is on the lower third of the Blueprint newspaper this morning.
Okay, also on the Blueprint, well, talking about floods, Zulum approves 850 million for rehabilitation and upgrade of boreholes.
All right, we'll take these stories. Naira steady against Euro despite global currency turmoil. That story is on page 23. Also, 5 die, 13 injured in Gombe Easter accident. That is credited to the police. That's on page 10 of the Blueprint newspaper this morning. And of course, we take this one. Majority of Nigerian airports draining government funds. That's coming from the FG. That's on page 23 of the Blueprint newspaper this morning.
Okay, well, I think you should also take the sports story as a sportsman that you are.
All right, I will take the sporting story. Under 20 AFCON, Flying Eagles arrive, face Egypt today. You'll find that story on page 32 of the Blueprint newspaper. And of course, that takes us to the business day, the business news this morning. You take the headline. Okay,
on business news, Nigerians' foreign investments hit 2-year high on juicy returns.
That's interesting. We take this one too. Data centers to pump $630 million on growing internet usage. You'll find that story on page 30 of Business Day newspaper.
Also from Business Day, we see this after Pope Francis' death. They say here's the sequence of what follows next. I think that's talking about. But you're wondering, why is this on business?
Well,
there must be a reason, because I didn't expect such story.
There has to be a reason, and then sometimes there are exclusive stories that most papers won't, they won't miss.
I think it's how the procedure goes on for taking the next step.
138 cardinals.
So many people involved,
and out of the 138, some of them are above 80 already, meaning they will not take part in the selection process. I mean, they do not stand the chance of being selected. So the rest will have to do.
I was reading something on how, or watching a video on how the election process goes on, and one intriguing part is I don't know if you need to go watch, is about smoke. There's a way they do the voting and they burn
incense.
No, not really incense. I think the voting papers, there's something about the smoke. There's a way they say when the smoke comes out black, I watched like a story on it, that means they're in the process. When it comes out like white or something, that means a pope has been chosen. Wow.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens in a few weeks or months' time. We'll see what happens. But then, before a new pope is selected, the past one has to be laid to rest. So that's one of the first processes to be done. And that, is one thing everyone is expecting. Then the question is, when will it become the turn of an African to be there?
Well, we have Africans there now. Let's see.
Well, I think a Ghanaian is in the running. We'll see what happens.
Not Nigerian? Well, we don't have details anyway.
We don't have details. We'll see. A list will be released or certainly.
Would it be nice to have a Ghanaian pope? Nigerian pope.
In fact, if it's an African,
Nigerian, I'm specific.
It will be nice.
Nigerian pope.
We're Africans before we became Nigerians anyway, so it will be nice to just see an African there, and that will be a thing of joy for Africans. For a long time, they have been clamoring for this. We'll see what happens after there, and that takes us away from this segment of this show this morning. We are straight for a short break. And when we return, we'll go to the next segment on the show. Don't forget, you can watch us live on our website at dominion.org.ng. dominion.org.ng. You can also follow us on our YouTube channel. You subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch us live at Dominion Broadcast. Link up, follow, like, and share our post and react to our post. Drop your comments on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X at Dominioncast. We'll be back after this time out. All right, welcome back from that short break. The show is still Daybreak Live on Dominion Television, your channel of choice, where inspiration meets entertainment. Don't forget, you can watch us live on our website at dominion.org.ng, at dominion.org.ng. You can watch us live too on our YouTube channel at Dominion Broadcast. Don't forget to subscribe to that channel. And you can also link up with us on all other social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Dominion Cast. All right, welcome back. We have in the studio this morning Plato, with whom we'll be doing justice to the major stories on the pages of the newspaper, and most importantly, we'll be talking about security in the country and its origin. How did it all start? And that is what we'll be doing this morning. Plato, good to have you in the studio.
Thank you so much for
Good morning, Plato. Do I say happy Easter Tuesday?
Oh, what? Whichever one.
Welcome. Good to have you today again.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we've been speaking about insecurity in the country, the origin, how it all started, and then how it became a major problem where we now have different sects. We used to have men in the Niger Delta who were busy busting pipelines up and down, and then after that we had Boko Haram in the north. We had which we call the insurgents. We have bandits. We have people who now do kidnaps and ransoms, and then that hasn't even stopped armed robbery in the country. We have insecurity in offices, and then we have the supposed herdsmen, suspected herdsmen, who go to farms and destroy farmlands and even eventually maim the farmers. That is a problem that Nigeria has not been able to nip in the bud. The president is back in the country, and I'm sure he knows that there has been a lot of back and forth as regards insecurity in the country, talking about the former Senate President, Senator David Mark, voicing his opinion, saying this is more of a coordinated attack. Away from there, the governor of Plateau State, Muftang, has also said a lot about insecurity, saying this is becoming unbearable. And then you have the Aliyah Ancient in Benue State, who also says no, these recent attacks is beyond what we have always recorded. And yesterday, it was on the paper, in the last 3 months, 284 people have lost their lives. Properties worth millions of naira destroyed. Now, I mentioned something while we're having the rundown on the papers. It is a lot easy to destroy properties, but how difficult it is to actually build them or rebuild them, that's one question we need to be looking at. And if we keep looking at the security crisis in the country the way it is, we continue to destroy things, we can get properties back, we can always rebuild, but will we be able to rebuild lives that has been lost?
Not at all. And just before you answer that, based on what Samson has said, all the highlights there, you'll also look at the fact that General Danjuma has spoken up and says the best way is self-defense, and a lot of there's a lot of uproar. Some people say no, it's not good. Some say it's best because maybe self-defense might cause more massacre, as that case may be. So all this, we want to hear what your take is.
Thank you so much. First, I'm going to start on the note of on this note. First, the president came back and said he was going to summon a meeting with service chiefs, and I dare say that it is the height of irresponsibility on the part of the president to wait till he came back from his sojourn, abroad,
outside the country,
before he could summon a meeting. This is 2025. In the era of COVID, we were having meetings. Okay? We could have a virtual meeting. Yes, you could have meeting via Google
we even had weddings, virtual weddings.
Exactly. So, I think it's the height of irresponsibility, and maybe for the optics, and it shows level of unseriousness if you have to wait till you come back, and then a lot of persons have lost their lives. And like Samson rightly said, how do you reclaim those lives? Women have become widowed. Women have become childless. Children have become orphans, motherless or fatherless as a result of that. In fact, I saw a gory picture of a young child, two young children, a boy and a girl, who were killed in their sleep. In the wake of all this attack, and then the president is coming back to say, oh, he just wants to someone a meeting.
Countless times we have called meetings of service chiefs. We have done that a lot of times in Nigeria, and it's always on the pages of the newspaper. What's new about this particular meeting that the president has called? What's the difference?
I feel that whatever thing they want to discuss, physically, could have also been discussed virtually. But that said, now let's come to the meat of the issue. If you look at what is happening in these states, you will see that, like David Mark said. Now, before going to even what David Mark said, I want us to look at the character and personalities of those who have voiced out their discontent. David Mark, a retired general. T.Y. Danjuma, a retired general. David Mark, a retired general, knowing full well that a soldier really never retires, particularly an officer, says this is a coordinated attack. He could not have been saying it without
intel,
prior information.
True.
T.Y. Danjuma, a former chief of staff, a former chief of defense, saying that the people need to resort to
self-defense,
could not have been saying this if he had not seen that these attacks are coordinated. Now, if you also look at what is the bone of contention, this is an existential issue. There seems to be an attempt to totally annihilate minority groups in the north central region.
Is that talking about ethnic cleansing in some part of the country? Of course,
it seems like. Because if you look at the way these attacks have been programmed, like David Mark said, it seems to be very well coordinated. The eat retreat methodology, which is known fully with guerrilla warfare, eat return, and when you eat, then you make a retreat, not necessarily because you're running away, but because you want to come back.
Re-strategize.
Now, we have been having this, and we know that what is at the center of all of this is the quest for land. Who are those who are in this quest for land?
Okay.
For the sake of broadcast ethics and all that, I would restrict myself to not making what anyone would call some bogus claims. However, we know these things. There have been noises before now. There have been shouts behind the scenes that there is an attempt at ethnic cleansing. There is an attempt at land grabbing. Or to put it straight, it seemed like a conquest. To take the lands of people from them.
Plato, who are these people?
Now, interestingly, because I want us to connect dots here, we have seen some notable persons make certain statements that could point to this or could have aided this. For instance, it was allegedly said that the governor of Bauchi State, Bala Mohammed, and the former governor of Kaduna State said that they have called on all Fulanis to relocate to Nigeria. Now, the question you want to ask yourself is, to which land? Fulanis are not sedentary. They are always moving. They are one of the largest, ethnic groups in Africa. But they don't have lands to themselves because they are always moving. So when you say you have called on all Fulanis, and in the wake of the banditry, that we saw in the early 2000s, and even, insurgency, many of us said, look at the intonation of these guys. A lot of them were Francophone speaking. They were French speaking. So they were not Fulanis who were born in Nigeria.
They migrated in here.
And to an extent, Sheikh Gumi also lent credence to this when he said a lot of them don't even speak Turangi, they don't understand Turangi, so it's largely French. And we know what happened with the defeat of Gaddafi in Libya and how even these sects are also creating ruckus in Mali. in northern Mali. So with what is happening, then you now bring it down to Nigeria. Now the government that is expected to provide security of lives and property. See, let's forget the 8, and I have no apologies for saying this, the 8 locust years of Buhari, because it was those 8 years that brought us to this point. When a government seemed to be, the body language of the government seemed to be aiding some things. When people were shouting, oh, Fulani X-Men, as much as I'm not a fan of ethnic profiling, but there were allegations that were clearly true. And the government was, rather than take action, it was defending, saying, no, they are not. Rather than take action. We saw what happened in Oyo State, for instance. In Irua, Ibarapa side. Sorry, please. So, if you look at all of this, and then we now have this. So, we've gotten to a point where insecurity has become a major issue, and the government cannot provide security. The next thing then will be for the people to defend themselves. As I always say, nature abhors vacuum. So if someone is not filling the space, something has to fill the space. I think it was in the scriptures that Jesus was saying that he sent out demons and he said something must fill it. If the demons come back and then they find the place empty, okay, they're going to come back in 7 folds. So what we have on our hands is the failure of government, the failure of the state. Because what brought us to the level of the civil state from the Obitian state of nature was the agreement that, see, the Leviathan, which is the state or the government, will protect our lives. And so we surrender our right to self-preservation. So when this right to self-preservation is no longer protected under the state, that animalistic instinct of preserving our own lives, ourselves, will come in. And the danger of it is that we are going to go back to the Obitian state of nature, where life was short, brutish, and nasty. Because if I have a gun, for instance, and someone offends me, even for no just reason, I could shoot down the person. Interestingly, during the years of Buhari, they mopped up those who have private licenses of gun. So even what the people need to protect themselves with
was taken away.
However, we should also not act as if we don't know that there are black markets for getting ammunitions in every state.
How do insurgents, bandits get their weapons?
No, they don't even go to black markets. We have
who supplies them these
over
weapons?
1,000 borders and over 1,000 official borders and over 3,000 unofficial borders. In Oyo State alone, there are over 15 unofficial border routes. These are the border routes that you see, smugglers.
Now talking about this.
So you can be sure that arms would always come in.
Talking about these border routes, there is a story here on the Blueprint newspaper. Al-Qaeda-linked jihadists attack military posts in Benin Republic, kill 70 soldiers. And that means there is another threat of insecurity on that part of the border. And
don't forget that Benin is just our closest neighbor.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. And the border is even porous.
And like they say that if something is happening to the house next door, you should know that it's coming close. The chicken is coming to roost. And it's just unfortunate that we seem to have governments in Nigeria that are largely responsible. And the painful part of it is the way they are now gaslighting the state governors to say, oh, the state governors are not doing anything. I listened to one of the spokespersons of the president, Daniel Bwala, saying that, oh, the governors are collecting security funds and then they are not using it, that they are supposed to supplement it. It is an act of irresponsibility. So I decide to give birth to 7 children. And then I tell my cousin, it is your duty to raise these kids for me.
But the governors also have roles to play.
No, of course they have roles to play.
They are the chief security officers of their states.
How many times have you seen buses used, vans used by the police that you did not see donated by The state government. How many times have you seen donated by the Police Service Commission? How many of the vans that you see belonging to the police, for instance, and even the NSCDC, and sometimes even the army?
Are you saying the Police Service Commission are doing next to nothing to see that security?
They are doing so much. They are giving an allocation of about 10,000 to each police station per month.
Come again.
Yes.
Allocation
they are doing
of,
so much. They are doing so much.
Allocation of how much?
10,000 naira to each police station.
How did they fuel their cars?
No, the 10,000 naira is enough. That's
how do they fuel those trucks?
10,000 should be enough for you to.
How about the welfareism of officers
to fund,
on overnight shifts
to maintain the police station for a year?
10,000 naira.
So if someone is now coming to say, "Oh, the governors need to do some," you see, you need to just speak with those in the hierarchy, and you will be shocked. So don't be surprised. Sometimes when people condemn certain things, I say, why not look deep? It's like the case of the hunchback, who says, see, the hunchbacked porter carrying a load, and you are saying the load is a bit slant. He's saying, see, you're looking above, you're not looking beneath. So you go to a police station, out of the 10,000 naira, they need to buy, to detoxify the cells and all that. Will they use their money? So you see each police station has a gas station close by that has to give them gasoline. There is a pure water factory that has to supply them water for free. So sometimes while we want to condemn, it's easy to condemn when you don't know the undercurrents. But I don't want us to move, so these are the issues. So when the state governors are the ones, now I'm not saying that these governors are not using these monies. In fact, it's a self-indictment on the part of the spokesperson of the president and even the presidency. When you say the governors just collect the security funds and they don't do anything, don't forget Mr. President was formerly a governor. So it means that Mr. President too, while he was a governor, was also collecting, because that's the simple assumption. If, like the Yorubas will say, okay, it's only a thief that will know the path of a thief. So you are simply telling us that, oh, Mr. President did same
while he was governor of Lagos.
And this is a safe conclusion we can reach while he was governor. So these are some of the serious issues that we must consider. We should stop this way of apportioning blames. We should first understand that to deal with the problem, you must attack the roots. And to deal with the problem, you don't gloss over it. To deal or resolve a conflict, you must show genuineness. The place of government bias must not come in. I have said this, that I'm not a fan of ethnic profiling. However, it's important that we put matters straight and put everything in proper context. First, the issue in question is an existential issue. It is a question of the extermination or the attempted extermination of a people by a people. And this is not 1600 or 1500.
This is 2025.
This is 2025. It's not a time when someone can wake up and say we are engaging in a war of conquest. So there are rules. And two, what is the bone of contention? Land. So how do you resolve conflicts when issues of land come in? You must tell the party who owns the land. You must first understand what we call the principle of the first claimant. The principle of the first claimant. Who is the first claimant on the land? Those who are there. Now, they met people there. You see, the history of human race is the history of migration. That's why if you're a student of history, you see that, how did we, what's our history? We migrated from, but then we are now the first claimant. We may have met people there. For instance, what was known as Kanem Bornu was initially occupied by the Bulalas and the Souls. When they were uprooted. Oduduwa was not the first man to get to Ife, for instance. So is the history of migration. But then they become first claimant because they have, they have established their legitimacy and their claim. Now, if another claimant is coming in the 21st century, That would not work because the principle of first claimant has been abrogated. And whoever has claimed it, okay, you know, in law we say that equity will only avail the vigilant, not the indolent. So those who were indolent with their land, to have allowed the claimant, you know, another claimant, that one is gone. So another person will not come and say, oh, well, it's the history of migration, so we can also take over the land from you. No way.
Okay, let's put into consideration that most forests in Nigeria are occupied. And then most of the times they are occupied by bandits, insurgents, kidnappers. And then the government, in one way or the other, have failed to do anything about it. Most of the times they tell you it's an expanse of land and then they cannot cover that place. And then where's the place of drones?
It's just unfortunate. You see,
same is going on in Plateau State, as the governor is saying, the forests they are being used for open grazing, and then it's occupied.
This is the interesting part of it.
You know, they were talking about the ban on open grazing to create reserves. Now the reserves are being occupied by bandits.
Well, the reserves have been abandoned for long. In fact, a lot of the forest reserves have been abandoned for long. A lot of farm settlements have turned to housing estates. Okay, you know, your state, for instance, the governor, in fact,
when you are traveling down to Ishe,
you see farm settlements
everywhere is claimed.
Yeah, they have become farm settlements. These are some of the maladies that we have normalized in Nigeria. Now, you have forest reserves. You do not attend to them. These forest reserves have been left fallow. In fact, there is what we call a grazing route in Nigeria. I saw that chart, you know, First Republic. The grazing route from Kano to Oyo. So it allows you to move your cattle. And this grazing route, it is called the route because there are understandings that there are farms around that you should not step.
You should not step.
Oh, there are also understanding that your cattle need to feed on grains. So there are provisions for it there. But we left all of these unoccupied. And we feel that, like I would always say, nature abhors vacuum. So if you are not doing anything there, someone will be doing something there. And now bandits have taken over. Interestingly, if you look at the states that are majorly hit, in the southwest, the state that is majorly hit by banditry or even kidnapping is Ondo State. The state with the largest expanse of land. Sorry, okay, after Oyo State anyways. Oyo State has been able to help itself with Amotekun. Okay, Oyo State and Ondo State. Oyo is the largest in the southwest. Look at Benue. Look at Plateau. These are states with large expanse of land.
And they have some of the places
enormous forest. Look at what is happening in southern Kaduna. If you travel from Abuja to, if you travel from Abuja to Kari, for instance, you're going to spend about 5 hours on the road. If you travel from Abuja to Saminaka Junction, that's about 5 hours, and you can drive 2 hours stretch without seeing a house. So if those forests or lands are not being made use of, somebody will make use of them. So we have a lot of things to see. In dealing with this issue of insecurity, we need to unpack a lot of issues. First, what is the cause of this crisis? 2 is, how do we resolve it? It is not possible for you to invite people, you call people from your village, come to my place, and you stay in a room apartment. Where are they going to stay? Now, I imagine I just made a phone call to my village and say, tell all the young men to start coming. Where are you? I'm here. Just tell them to start coming. And I know I stay in a single room apartment. What are they going to do? They're either going to sleep on the, maybe on the corridor, or, they encroach other people's apartments, and that's going to be the end.
All right, very quickly, away from that this morning, the former president of Nigeria, President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, is in the news. And then he made mention that he regrets his inability to end Nigeria's suffering. Says commitment to peace remains unshaken. Now, the sufferings are still there, but the next president is regretting his actions. Is he now saying, people do say that it's easier to see how best you could have scored a goal when you're on the sidelines?
Well, he's in fact the greatest players are players on the bench.
On the bench?
Yeah, the greatest players are players on the bench.
Is this the same case with President Jonathan? He's seeing clearly now that he's on the bench.
You see, if you study the pattern in Nigeria, every past president is better than the present. Who would have thought that the president will come that will make you think that Buhari is God sent?
Several times, former President Olusegun Obasanjo has written open letters to the current president per time.
Yeah, knowing
he's very vocal. He wrote a book.
They know how to run this, the country.
He wrote a book tagged "My Watch."
Yeah, they know how to run the country better when they are out of office. And you begin to ask yourself, so where did this wisdom go to? Was it wisdom on sabbatical when while you were in government? But then it is what it is. It shows what I would call the selective amnesia of Nigeria. The selective amnesia that is almost synonymous to a woman in a perimenopausal state, forgetting things so easily. I wonder how we tend to glorify persons that should be vilified. Persons who did abysmally while in government. Because they are no longer in power. You say, no. People who believe that Babangida was one of the best, one of the best things to have happened to this country after the discovery of Ewa Agoyin bread. There are some people who believe that, Abacha is our father who art in heaven. Because they feel that, because times are not getting better. But then you have forgotten that a seed sown will always germinate. And the fact that it germinates now does not mean it was sown now. It is a case of the fathers have sinned, and now the children's teeth are now on edge. So these are very clear issues. I do not have a problem with any former president or senator saying anything. I x-ray them based on their performance while in office. You can say anything out of office while you were there. You remember, before President Bola Ahmed Tinubu got to office, he was a known federalist, shouting federalism. When last did you see him shout federalism? They said they were going to give direct allocation to local government. It's been almost a year. They've not done that. A man who shouts federalism, yet is supporting, a character like Wike against the sitting governor to use state power. So it tells you that it can be all mouths and trousers.
So what exactly is responsible for this?
It is simply the lack of character on the part of these persons. It's not. I'm not one of those that believe that there's something in that seat of power. No, you see, to know a man's true nature, test him with power, fame, or money.
Plato, we have to go this morning. It's really an honor to have you in the studio with us on Dominion Television.
Thank you.
We do hope that next time we call you, you'll be here.
Hopefully.
Whenever we call Plato this year, it's always a pleasure having Plato in the studio. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right, we now link up with Boluwaji Ogunmola for Daybreak Sport on Dominion Television. Bolu, good morning to you. Good morning to you, Samson. Good morning to you, Abby. Good to have you. Absolutely. There are quite a number of interesting stories to talk about this morning, I guess.
Absolutely, especially from England, where Burnley and Leeds United are back in the Premier League. Absolutely. I mean, it was indeed a sight to behold at the two venues yesterday, as the two teams were confirmed promoted back to the Premier League. While some teams are getting relegated from the Premier League, the other teams are celebrating their return to the Premier League. Of course, I think
the third team in the Premier League right now, Ipswich Town, they are just waiting to be confirmed. Probably the next game, if they get to lose, it will be mathematically impossible for them to stay in the EPL.
That's very correct. And that will be the second successive season that the newly promoted teams will be making an instant return to the Championship, and Ipswich will just seal that record in a couple of days. That's the situation at hand at the moment. But of course, we'll be starting from the Nigerian scene, talking about Nigerian Premier Football League this morning. Yes, my name is Boluwaji Ogunmola, like you mentioned earlier, and let's take a look at what happened in Ibadan over the weekend, where the coach of Remo Stars, Daniel Ogumodede, has said that he won't be carried away by all the congratulatory messages he's been receiving, following his team's fantastic performance so far this season. And don't forget that over the weekend, his team came to Ibadan and secured a 1-0 victory over Shooting Stars. Let's listen to Daniel Ogumolede speaking after his team's victory over Shooting Stars on Sunday.
Very, very good side in Shooting Stars. How would you sum up the performance over 94 minutes of football today?
We showed a lot of resilience today. The boys, they know what is at stake. Obviously, their character during the game shows. The only painful thing is playing without spectators. You know, it's for me, it's a terrible thing to football. It's not good for football. It's not good for football. But nonetheless, we took advantage of it. It's an hostile ground. It's one of the biggest ground Remo Star will ever come, and sometimes tremble. You know, so but today it's a different ball game. It was also about tactic and mentality. So we know what was at stake. We took the advantage and we got our maximum 3 points. I'm happy for the boys for putting up a very good job after going 3 matches without a win. You know, so we have to come back. It's important for us to come back now, and we are back.
Niger Tornadoes are the guest of Remo Stars in the next MPFL fixture. From there, as you can see on the screen, the Flying Eagles of Nigeria under 20 male team yesterday arrived at the capital of Egypt, Cairo, for the 17th edition of the Under 20 African Cup of Nations. A delegation of 24 players and 9 officials led by head coach Elias Zubair touched down at the Cairo International Airport yesterday. The team actually lodged in a 5-star hotel, I must say, and they had their first training session yesterday. Meanwhile, the Flying Eagles will square up to host nation, and as the Young Pharaohs of Egypt on Tuesday. And as next week. Tuesday is the game, but then they have a very important friendly later today against host nation, the Egyptian counterpart. Let's take a look at our fixtures of the Under 20 AFCON this morning. On Thursday next week, it will be Nigeria taking on Tunisia, and also would have the 4th of May, it's Morocco taking on Nigeria, and of course the third group game is between Kenya and Nigeria. Of course, the games are holding on the 1st of May, 4th of May, and the 7th of May. We wish our boys all the best, but then today, like I mentioned earlier, you know, they will be facing the host nation, the Egyptian counterpart. Well, from there, let's check out wrestling this morning, where a total of 6 lifters and 2 officials will depart the Moitala Mohammed International Airport en route to Mauritius for the 2025 African Weightlifting Championship. And this was contained in a press release by the Weightlifting Federation of Nigeria. According to the statement, the contingent comprises 4 female and 2 male lifters who are poised to compete in 6 categories at the African Weightlifting flagship event. The female athletes include Didi Onome Omolola in the 55 kg event, Lawal Rafiat Folashade in your state weightlifter, who will be representing Nigeria in the 59 kg category, Ayodele Roots Imoleayo in the 64 kg category, also an your state athlete as well, and Matthew Sarah in the 76 kg category, while the male counterparts are Emmanuel Tuesday and Omofia Edidion Joseph. The 2025 African Weightlifting Championship will hold in Mocha, Mauritius, starting from the 20th of April through the 28th of the same month, while the opening ceremony will hold on the 23rd of April, that's tomorrow. From weightlifting, let's take updates coming from the world of IAHF. That's hockey this morning, when Nigeria's women's handball team won their matches on Monday, that's yesterday, at the IHF Women's Trophy Zonal Phase Championship ongoing in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, as the under-18 women's national team had to rally and dig deep to earn a 36-33 point victory over Burkina Faso, while the under-20 team totally destroyed Togo 52-8 points. A fantastic one from the Nigerian girls. Nigerian under-18 women will play Benin Republic later today at 5 p.m. From there to athletics, where 3 Nigerian athletes, Favour Ofili, Konyisola Ajayi and Tima Godbless have qualified for the 2025 World Athletics Championship set to take place in Tokyo, Japan this year. Ofili, competing at the Tom Jones Memorial in Jacksonville, Florida, finished second in the women's 200 meter with a time of 22.34 seconds, trailing only reigning champion, the reigning Olympic champion Julian Alfred, who clocked 21.88 seconds. The performance marks a strong start for her 2025 campaign and secures a place at the World Championship. Congratulations to her and, of course, our counterpart that also qualified for the event. From there to the world of tennis this morning, where Jelena Ostapenko beat world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka 6-4, 6-1 to win the Stuttgart Open in Germany in stunning fashion yesterday. Ostapenko, who had failed to win in 3 previous meetings against Sabalenka, took the match by storm yesterday. Congratulations to her, I must say. From there to the world of football, where yesterday Leeds United and Burnley sealed a return to the Premier League, courtesy of a very important victory. But then let's take a look at results of matches played across Europe yesterday. Very interesting result, I must say, across the European scene yesterday. As you can see on your screen, in the Spanish La Liga, Girona and Real Betis faced one another, and it was a good victory for Real Betis away from home. 3-1 as that game actually ended. But then those 4 games in the Italian Serie A did not hold, as they failed to hold because they were postponed till Wednesday following the death of Pope Francis. And in Turkey, we had games there, of course, in Saudi Arabia. But most importantly, let's take a look at what transpired in the championship yesterday. Burnley yesterday defeated Sheffield United 2-1. And of course, Leeds got the better of Stoke City 6-0 to confirm their return to the Premier League. Of course, don't forget, they were relegated, then it's time for them to smile. And of course, the victory came yesterday. Now, this was confirmed yesterday. That was Easter Monday, following wins in their championship fixtures. At the Ellen Road, Daniel Farke's men raced into a 5-goal lead in the first half against Stoke City. They ended up winning 6-0, bringing an end to their 2-year absence from England's top flight. Burnley, on their own part, defeated Sheffield United 2-1 at Turf Moor to secure an immediate return to the Premier League. And the result stretches the Clarets' unbeaten run in the league to 31 games. Well, Leeds United have the best attack in the championship, while Scott Parker's Burnley boasts the meanest defense in the league. Leeds and Burnley are currently first and second respectively on the championship table, both on 94 points. Both sides now face straight shootout for the championship title, with 2 games remaining in the championship this season. There you have the championship table as we speak. Leeds United topping the park, same points as Burnley. And then we'll still have Sheffield United, Sunderland, Bristol, Coventry, Middlesbrough, Millwall, Blackburn Rovers, West Bromwich Albion, Swansea, Watford, Sheffield, Norwich. All of those former Premier League teams now find themselves in the championship. Don't forget, they welcome back Leicester City and Southampton to the championship as Leeds and Burnley get to replace them in the Premier League. And like I mentioned earlier, there was a game in La Liga yesterday. Let's take a look at that quickly before we leave. Girona and Real Betis went head-to-head yesterday, 3-1 in the end. But then, there you have on your screen the Premier League match we witnessed yesterday. Tottenham versus Nottingham Forest. And it was a very good win for Nottingham Forest, 2-1. And it's been a very, very fantastic season for them this season. Talking about Nottingham Forest, going away from home to defeat Tottenham. And it was a major blow for Tottenham Hotspur. Let's take a look at the Premier League table after this game yesterday. Liverpool still top the park, yes, waiting to be crowned champions in the Premier League. Arsenal second with 66 points. Nottingham Forest, courtesy of that win over Tottenham Hotspur yesterday. They are now third on the Premier League table. Newcastle United occupy the 4th position. Manchester City, champions, who can no longer defend the title this season. They are 5th on the table. And Chelsea currently sitting in the Conference League position. For Tottenham Hotspur, you can find them in the 16th position, looking to escape relegation, somewhere in the mix. But then they will be happy that Ipswich Town, they've done enough to go down. And of course, for Manchester United, 14th position, they remain right there. Well, that's it on sports this morning. Back to you, Samson and Ebi. But before that, Samson, let's take a look at the fixtures for midweek fixtures this weekend. Manchester City versus Aston Villa will be played today. And then Arsenal Crystal Palace might just be the result or the fixture that Liverpool fans will be looking forward to, because a win for Crystal Palace over Arsenal will seal their 28th trophy. And one team won't be happy about that, and that's Manchester United, who will also be in action against Bournemouth. They are 14th on the table, and I doubt if they can even move further on the table this season.
Well, I think Manchester United's chance of playing in Europe next season actually has a lot to do with their performance in the UEFA Cup competition they are currently playing in. And also for Liverpool, they stand a chance of celebrating their 20th EPL title this weekend. I think that's a great one for Liverpool. And will they be able to pull it off this weekend? That depends on the result between Arsenal and, of course, Crystal Palace. That's a very big one. And, of course, talking about the game between Shooting Star Sports Club of Ibadan, there's a lot going on there. And it's obvious now that they are not, going to get a chance to play on the continent again this season. Then they go again next season. But then, Bolu, what exactly do you think the problem is when we talk about Shooting Stars and the current crop of, inconsistent results?
Yeah, so one thing that the team appear to be doing wrong this season is that they don't have as much players in that squad as they had last season. Last season, where they almost picked up a ticket to the continent, they had a lot of players to choose from. But this season, a lot has changed. I remember speaking to the coach, Bengo Gumote, at the start of the season. He made us understand that he doesn't have a large squad to play around with at the moment. And that's some administrative lapses there, because they've been complaining about funds, availability of funds, all this well. And they can't keep a large squad because they don't have enough to sign all of those players. And yesterday, the loss against Remo Stars. While he was speaking after the game, he said he had a number of those players injured. Even some on the bench were sick.
You just have to be there to make the numbers.
To just make the numbers. They are not fit. Just imagine you have to bring in all of those players on the pitch. It would have probably been worse, right? Exactly. What we expected was there for them to do better than they did last season, but things didn't work out. We thought it was going to happen, because don't forget, Bengo Gumote needs to spend just 2 seasons in your club to make a continental ticket. But Shooting Stars already
they have not been able to pull
that record. But then fans also would have themselves to blame. They won't look back to the game that Shooting Stars lost, and they reportedly attacked of match officials.
Yeah, let's talk about the injured players for Shooting Stars. I think I noticed the inconsistency in results since the injury to Alex Agawa, who happens to be a mainstay in their midfield, a strong defensive midfielder, a giant, if I may say. And then a couple of times this season, he has actually had to play as a makeshift central defender, pairing with Adeleye in the art of defense. But then, Burita Latai, who happens to be one of the best right backs you will find in the MPFL, for the last 10 matches, he has not been on the field, meaning he has been injured. At the point, Utin also, a left back, a versatile one at that, has also been out of the team. And then the question is, how do you think Shooting Stars will go forward next season? Are you talking about... Then one more thing I want you to talk about is the fact that there are players leaving the team, and the team cannot even account for how and why they left the team. Don't forget, Bola Gade left for Iraq at the point, came back. It took him some time before he got back into the team. You have players like Ayobami who left the team. Agba, we call him Agba. He left the team, he traveled. I think some said he's back in the country and some said he's not. He left the team and there was no explanation. And there are a lot of players like that who have actually left that team. Quality players who actually made their mark in the team for a season, and then the next season they are no longer there. Is it the consistency of contract with the team? Should we be looking at Shooting Stars being more transparent with these players? Okay, a particular player has 2 years contract and we know, okay, he has 2 years contract. And then not like he was going to leave overnight and then there will be no questions asked and no responses given.
You know, first off, it's a societal problem, especially in Nigeria. I mean, how well are these players being rewarded? Not just a Shooting Stars problem, it's a general problem in the country. I mean, how much does a player earn in the Nigerian Premier Football League? Do they earn exactly what their mates are earning, not even abroad? Not even
on the
in Europe,
countries.
Even on the continent of Africa. You see them moving to Sudan after 1 season. Can you stop them? They get a better pay over there, right? And they get better welfare over there as well. You might call them obscure leagues, but these guys get their money as a when due, and they get enough to feed their family. So we can't really blame them for that. But then there's still a place of transparency of contract. And we've always said it about Shooting Stars. Players leave. There is no fund coming into the pocket of the club to buy new players because many of them came on loan, right? According to what we get from Shooting Stars managers, came on loan. So a player comes in, play for a season, leaves immediately after that, you get nothing for it to sign a new player. Because to sign new players in Nigerian league can be quite expensive. Yeah, you want to sign them to a 3-year contract at least to keep them for consistency's sake in the league. But it's quite difficult the way it's been run at this point. I think going into next season, like you mentioned earlier, we should talk about moving forward at this point. Going into next season, it's important that the management sit down and have a proper structure for this club. We see it happening in Enugu Rangers, right? They've had a level of consistency. This season was pretty bad for them, but then they've had a level of consistency for some time. I've had some players who have stayed for a long time. And when they sign players, we know how much coming to Enugu Rangers coffers, right? But then, Shooting Stars is not like that. We need a structure at the club to say, you are coming in, we are buying you outrightly, we own you. And you need all those things to ensure that there is money coming in each time a player leaves, so you can sign a replacement. Last season, we were saying we had a lot of players coming in, right? Who came in last season? This season, nowhere to be found. They left. We got no money to buy new players. The club will definitely suffer for it. So when there's no structure, where there's no structure, the club will definitely suffer. And that's why we're here saying we have a lot of players injured and there are no players, to play. And we have sick players, even on the bench. It's a problem that the management needs to look into. And it's beyond the management. Then the government also needs to look into the club and say, we need to restructure and have a proper structure going forward. If not, we just find ourselves where we are at this point.
All right, before we talk about the Nigerian Under-20 team, let's talk about the current spree of Nigerian players going to any league, so as long as it is they pay more than they get in Nigeria. I could remember a striker in the stature of Robert Mezo played for Bayelsa United last season, and at the point he left and traveled outside the country, an African country. Ojo Olorunleke left Nigeria, traveled. Okemuti Oda left Shooting Stars last season and traveled before they had Mustafa Lawal, the Spider, who is the current, also very good goalkeeper playing for the team right now. What do you think the government should do differently? And is it the case of the government investing in sports, or they should give room for private investors to invest in sports, just like we have seen at Ikorodu City, just like we have seen at Sporting Lagos, just like we have seen at Remo Stars. These are beyond limits too. These are teams who have actually shown that private investors will actually do good when it comes to sports in Nigeria. Don't forget, if you, even as a pressman, if you are going to watch Remo Stars play, you must have done your accreditation probably 2, 3, 4 days before the game. Correct. So when you get there, You just, you scan your code and then you get into the field. It's not like you go there and then you have to wait outside and someone has to come and clear you before you enter, even with your identity card. What exactly do you think should be done? Should the government step aside a little bit, allow private investors come on board, or what exactly is the problem?
Well, the thing is, we need deliberate investment in sports at this point in Nigeria. Government owning 95% of clubs have not really worked. And when you keep doing something and it's not working, I think you should look at the alternative. Let's take a look at what the privately owned clubs have been doing. Remo Stars, Ikorodu City, MFM at some point.
Look at the stadiums.
Ifeanyi Uba FC. They fill up the stadiums. They come up with match day packages that, attract fans to the stadium. Entertainment is been to Ikorodu a couple of times, Ikorodu City a couple of times to watch some of their games, and it's a festival. Forget what's happening on the pitch. It's a festival. There's entertainment. There's a performer doing something at the back. Does government have what it takes to put that in place? No. Like some people say, government has no business in sport. And that's true. We need deliberate investment, like Remo Stars is currently doing. Honorable Kule Shiname is doing a very great job. And no doubt about it, we have his male team dominating the MPFL. The female team dominating the Women League as well. It's no coincidence. It's deliberate approach. And you see what happens to him also at the end of the season. He sends his coaches abroad for development. How many of the government-owned clubs do that for their respective coaches? All of those things begging for answer. And you say, should government really be involved in sports in Nigeria? I think it has not worked. And I think private investors...
All right, Bolu, very quickly before we leave the sporting segment this morning, let's talk about the under-20 team, the preparation and the chances for the tournament. What do you think about this team and their selection process so far?
Well, the selection process has been great as far as I'm concerned. The coach has kept faith with a number of players who ran through the qualifiers for him. And we saw them yesterday when they traveled to Egypt. And the good thing is that they have a friendly game against the Egyptians today, where the coach feels it's time for him to test, the hands, the players, to test them to see how good they are going into the competition. We have 3 heavyweights in our group, and we believe that the boys will do a very good job at the tournament. Looking forward to a very fantastic under-20 AFCON, in Egypt this year.
Thank you, Bolu, for being a part of the show this morning.
Thank you very much, Samson.
The show is still Daybreak Live on Dominion Television, your channel of choice. You now go straight to Ibadan Metropolis for traffic reports this morning as Sheifumi Akinsoya is waiting.
Nigeria. Good morning, Oyo State. Good morning, Ibadan. And good morning on the studio. Well, as we speak, we're at Bodija. And from what you can see behind me, the road is free for vehicles to move and get to their destination as soon as possible. Well, the road behind me is the one that leads to the state secretariat. Coming to my right-hand side here, this one leads to Ashibodija. And also, this way, it leads to Agbowo. Well, so that means we can say it is safe to pass through this place, this road, if you are going to your place of work or whatsoever destination you are heading to. I'm talking about the road situation. Agbowo is free, like I said. No accident of any form this morning. Well, I would just advise that the Cleaners Association of Oyo State should do something about the cleanliness on this road. I mean, you can see behind me. Well, if we have people who are actually looking at all those things, we can keep Oyo State clean at all time. Well, there's no traffic lights here at Bodija, and it is also a strategic place in Ibadan, which I will also advise the state government to look into it. I am Sheifumi Akinsoya, reporting for Dominion Television.
No.
All right, welcome back from that short break. The show is still Daybreak Live on Dominion Television, your channel of choice. Don't forget, you can watch us live on our website at dominion.org.ng, at dominion.org.ng. You can also do that on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe to that YouTube channel at Dominion Broadcast. And then you can link up with us on all other social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Like, subscribe, and follow us at Dominion Broadcast. And on X, it is at Dominion Cast. We have to go this morning. It's about time we draw the curtains on today's edition of Daybreak Live on Dominion Television, Abby.
Yes, we have to go. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. I will say stay safe, stay blessed, and God bless Nigeria.
All right, our champions are not just the one who made in the stadium. They are those who have repeatedly been on their toes to make sure they achieve success. Keep being good, keep being safe out there. Samson Balogun is my name. Bye for now.